Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Unhinged After Dark. So we're going to be doing things a little bit differently today. I'm not going to be going on camera today because I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. I'm still recovering from having surgery on my appendix. But anyway, moving forward, let's get into it because y'all already know we got another true crime mystery to jump right into. In 2016, a young woman would disappear after going out for a bike ride. Her subsequent disappearance would shake the small town of Delta, Ohio. But as the truth unfolded, a nightmare was revealed and a killer was exposed. For 20-year-old Sierra Joggin, July 19, 2016 was just like any other day. Sierra left around 5 p.m. that day, and she told her mother that she was going bike riding with her boyfriend Josh. At 9:30 that night, Sierra's mother Sheila returned home and noticed that Sierra's bedroom light was off in her room. Now at first, Sierra's mother didn't think anything of it, and she just assumed that Sierra was probably at her boyfriend Josh's house. But all of that would change when at 10:30 p.m., Sierra's boyfriend Josh would call Sierra's mother asking if Sierra was home yet. Now, Josh said that he had been calling Sierra for the past couple of hours but could not get a hold of her. And this was very unusual for Sierra not to answer her phone. In a panic, her family called all of her friends. They posted on social media and they called the local hospitals, but still no sign of Sierra. About 4 hours later, 911 was called and Sierra was officially reported missing. Suspicion started to fall on Sierra's boyfriend Josh, and police and the FBI went to Josh's home to speak with him. Now, Josh said that he and Sierra left his home around 6:43 p.m. on bikes. Josh said that he rode halfway to Sierra's house with her, but that when they got close to Sierra's house, they both went their separate ways. Josh said he returned back home and was unable to reach Sierra. A few hours later, law enforcement received their first break in this case. An officer was out searching for Sierra near the cornfield when he noticed that a section of corn had been knocked over. As the officer walked further into the cornfield, he was overwhelmed by the smell of gas. The officer continued to search the cornfield, and minutes later, he made a shocking discovery. On the ground was a pair of men's sunglasses and Sierra's bike. And the worst part is that there were blood stains all over the handlebars and the seat of this bike. Sierra's green sock was also found with blood spots. And there was an orange-handled screwdriver with blood on it. After these items were found, the police developed the theory that Sierra was most likely abducted. The police also found tire marks from a motorcycle leading from the cornfield into a ditch. Now, a few days later, a local farmer contacted the police to let them know that he had found a bloody motorcycle helmet. Once again, suspicion turned to Sierra's boyfriend, Josh. The police knew that Josh owned a motorcycle and a motorcycle helmet. The police went to Josh's home, and Josh allowed them to search his motorcycle, his home, and other items. The police did not find any evidence linking Josh to Sierra's disappearance, and so he was eliminated as a suspect. Now, a few hours into the investigation, Sierra's boyfriend Josh would come forward with a tip. Josh told the police that he saw a suspicious white van near the crime scene. Now, he said that the van would slow down, but when he followed it, it would speed back up. Now, Josh was able to give the police a partial license plate number. And when the police ran the plates, the van came back to a woman. The woman told police that she thought someone was trying to run her off the road. The van was searched, but the police did not find any evidence linking the woman or the van to Sierra's disappearance. At this point, law enforcement had no leads and they knew that they had to act fast. So the FBI decided to canvass the neighborhood and visit all of the local sex offenders. This search would lead the FBI to a man named James, who lived with his mother and his brother on about an acre of land. But when law enforcement arrived at James' home to speak with him, he seemed agitated. The police informed him that they were there because Sierra Joggin had went missing. Now, although he was agitated, James did allow law enforcement to search his property. It was during the search of James's barn that law enforcement would discover incriminating evidence. Law enforcement officers noticed that the dirt in the barn had just been recently raked. Officers also found lingerie that was hidden inside of a crate, but most damning was a pair of underwear that had blood in them. After these items were found, James was immediately taken to the police station to be interrogated. During this time, James denied knowing Sierra, and he said that he had never even seen her. He told the police that the lingerie found in his barn was for a porn production he was creating. Now, police also found sexual devices in a freezer inside of the barn, and the freezer smelled like it had recently been cleaned out with bleach. The police also found zip ties, rope, a ski mask, and duct tape during their search of the barn. And then, just 3 days after she had disappeared, the body of Sierra Joggin was located in a shallow grave. Sierra had been hog-tied. There was a gag in her mouth, and she was wearing an adult diaper. The bloody underwear that had been found in James' barn was later determined to belong to Sierra. It was determined that Sierra had not been sexually assaulted and that she had died from a lack of oxygen. After Sierra's body was found, James Worley was arrested and charged with abduction and murder. The prosecution believed that on July 16th, after Josh and Sierra went their separate ways, James saw Sierra riding her bike. They knew from the hairline fracture on Sierra's skull that she was hit in the head with something. They believed that James hit her in the head with the bloody helmet that the farmer had located. After he hit her in the head, he then proceeded to hog-tie her in the cornfield. After hog-tying her, James went home to get his truck. He then came back to the cornfield and took Sierra back to his home. Now, once at his home, it's unclear exactly what James did to Sierra, but a few things are clear. Sierra's DNA was found on the mattress inside of James' barn. Sierra's DNA was also found on a piece of duct tape that was located inside of James' home. The duct tape also had James' DNA on it. On March 27, 2018, James Worley was found guilty on 19 counts, which also included aggravated murder. James Worley was sentenced to death, but he was granted a temporary stay of execution after he appealed his sentence. However, in July of 2020, his original death sentence was upheld. Now, prosecutors and investigators believe that this was not James Worley's first murder. Now, during James Worley's trial, a woman named Robin Gardner testified against him. In July of 1990, Robin was 26 years old and she was riding her bike in a wooded area. Now, as Robin was approaching her house, she was hit from behind by a pickup truck. Now, the driver of that pickup truck asked her if she was okay, and then he struck her on the back of her head with a hammer and he put her into a chokehold. He held a screwdriver to her throat and he threatened to kill her if she did not get into his truck. James Worley forced Robin into his truck, and then he tried to handcuff her, but he was only able to get one wrist into the cuff. Now, during the struggle, a bystander noticed what was going on and stopped to help. At that point, Robin had already managed to get out of the back of the pickup truck. In that case, the bystander ended up driving Robin to her home, and James Worley was convicted of abduction in her case. Unfortunately, James Worley only served about 3 years in prison for that crime. And then there's the case of Claudia Tinsley. In 1996, James Worley was 37 years old and he was back on the streets after serving just 3 years for the abduction of Robin Gardner. At the time, Claudia Tinsley was a 24-year-old mother of 3 who was also a sex worker living in North Toledo. On September 8, 1996, Claudia Tinsley was picked up on the street by James Worley. The two would hang out together for a few hours, even stopping at Claudia's house to see her mother and her family. But that was the last time that anyone would see Claudia Tinsley again. To this day, Claudia Tinsley is still missing, and James Worley was the last person known to be seen with her. In 2018, a news crew sat down with James Worley to question him about the disappearance of Claudia Tinsley.
You met Claudia when you were leaving the German American Festival.
Yes.
And you picked her up. She took you home to meet her mother?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, not to meet her. We went several places. Eventually, we ended up going over to her mom's home, and I said, what should I do? She said, well, come on in. And so I went in with her, and her mom's there, and there were some kids there, and maybe a couple other adults. And we were there for, I would think, no more than 10 minutes or so, and we left. And it was at that point in time, as you read in my one, that the mother, wrote down my license plate number. And that's how I got involved in this whole thing.
Are there any other killings that you
I'm not involved in, I am not involved in any
Claudia
killings.
Tinsley?
No.
Why do people connect you to Lorianne Hill? Her family wants your DNA tested.
Well, they've got my DNA. My DNA has been on file since 1990.
Yeah, her family wants it tested on her though, your DNA. Why would they?
Please, by all means.
Now, I believe that James Worley is a very dangerous man. He obviously has a history of violence against women. He's a liar. He is a manipulator, and he seems like he has very, like he's a narcissist. Now, as of right now, James Worley is sitting on death row currently. His execution date is scheduled for March 2025. To date, to my knowledge, this man has never admitted or confessed anything. He continues to maintain his innocence when it comes to Sierra's case, when it comes to Claudia's case, and even in the case of Robin Gardner, the victim that survived and testified against him, and he served 3 years in prison for attempting to kidnap her. Even in that case, he maintains his innocence. So I don't know if we'll ever get the truth out of this guy, but I do believe that it's very possible there could be more victims under his belt. Anyway, until we meet again, I hope to catch y'all later. If you don't follow me on TikTok, make sure that you do, at Shrew Stories Unhinged. And until next time, I'm gone.